and welcome to the Cheer Up Podcast. I'm Kara Hunt, the host of the Cheer Up Podcast, and with me is Awesome Swalwell. The awesome Sherry Swalwell, author, speaker, writer, devotional book writer, fiction book writer, and you name it all, not to mention just an all-around swell and awesome person. My co-host, Sherry Swalwell. How's it going for you today, Sherry?
I am loving January. First off, I cannot believe that we are already at the end of January. It always, every year, seems to go slowly for me, in a good way. I savor the first month of the year. So not in a bad way that it drags, but it just seems to go, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like that hibernation feel after the holidays. I don't really know. Maybe it's my other, I do know this. You know how we talked about that September is always my adjustment month? January is an adjustment month. It's a reset month. So
it's like a transition.
Yes, a transition month. And I love transition months. So I cannot believe we're already in the last month of January. Can you?
I know. As a matter of fact, it's heck, you're talking about the last week of January. I'm talking about all of 2021.
Right.
I'm still trying to figure out where in the blazes the year went.
We blinked. That's our problem. We blinked.
See, and that's what we get for blinking. Yeah. It's like we blinked, and then boom, there it was. It's like it's all over, and here it is, a whole new year. And I'm absolutely blessed and grateful for a new year, obviously, but it's just everything seems to be going, I can't say warp speed, but everything just seems to be going a lot quicker than I don't know. Than what I guess I'm used to. I'm not sure. It just seems like time is really, really going fast. And I know it's cliche and people say that all the time, but it just really seems like time is just really, really flying by. So this is being the last week of January, and I'm still trying to get used to the grace period, of it being 2022. But I'm honestly still not over 2021 being gone yet.
Well, and for the sake of hopefully nobody will write us hate mail or write me hate mail. I don't know about you, but I think 2021 I struggled with because so while the pandemic and while the shutdowns were horrible and there were really bad parts to it, I get all that and I'm not negating that. I love the stay at home, the slower schedule, everything was canceled. So everyone was home. We had more time. We were able to remember the little things, the simple things. I think for me, 2021 was a struggle because when we started adding things back, we didn't do it one at a time like we've been talking about all January. It came back. And it's my fault because I'm the one who's in charge of my own life, but it all came back at once, like the big bucket at the Great Wolf Lodge, whoosh. And my body and my mind and my spirit weren't ready for, like you said, Mach 10 warp speed. So that's part of my issue with the transition. I'm still trying to catch up, I think, and I'm kind of missing a little bit the Little House on the Prairie, simplistic, everybody's home around me, because I love that. I've always loved that. So for me, that part of the tragedy and the pandemic that we went through, I mourn that. And again, please don't send me hate mail. This is just my own personal feelings. But that's where I'm coming from, I think, with the whole, it came back, it overwhelmed my senses. There we go.
Yeah, you're mourning the togetherness of family that you got to enjoy during the shutdown.
Exactly. Right. That we weren't in 5,000 different directions, but we were all together.
The stillness, the calmness of it.
Yes.
That's
what I'm mourning. Yep.
Yeah, and the stillness and the calmness of it, because there's such a peace in that, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's such a peace in that. And it's, I remember there was a time in my life where it was kind of like, I can't say I was always a go, 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 go person, like never at home or anything like that, but I had a lot of drive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
I'm talking earlier in life, like in my 20s. Um, and I had tons of drive, and by golly, nothing was going to stop me. I had goals, you know, and I was going to do this, and I was going to do that, and I was going to do this. And at one time, I was working like 3 jobs in one day, with a toddler at home. I was married, and well, I had a toddler at home, and it was such a crazy time in my life. But I was so glad that I had someone to watch my toddler, because it was like, I think I did one job at one time at like from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning. Then I would leave there, do my full time job from like 11:30 a.m. to like 7:30, that night. And then I would leave there, and then I would go to another job and start that one at like 8 to 8:30 and be there until like 10:30 or 11. And then I would go
oh my.
home, and yes, but I had goals. It was like, I am doing this, this is going to happen, you know, uh and all this jazz and whatnot, and I had drive. Obviously, you can't function that way for a very long period of time without something going wrong, right? Relationships, or something like that. So eventually, things ended up calming down, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Okay? There's got to be a better way.
Right. It was fun while it lasted, but bye-bye.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't even know if it was fun. I was just so driven. It's like, if this is what I got to do to get where I've got to go, then this is what's going to happen. And not completely ignoring everything else. It's like boom, 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 boom. So now I can't say I was happy in it. I did it because I was like, I'm going to, by golly, this is going to get done, because
Mm-hmm.
I have a goal. I have this thing, and if this is what I need to do, if I need to grind, hustle, hustle, hustle to get it, and everything, then this is what I'm going to do. Bad mindset, everyone. Do not do that. Do not neglect your children. Do not neglect your relationships. Do not do that. And not only that, it will drain you. And in my case, it makes me a sour person, because I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. I'm doing it to reach an end, but I'm not really enjoying it. And I have learned through life that I'm not doing that anymore. Not saying I don't take that you're going to love every job and go to a career choice, not that. It's just that putting in that extra to get to the goal, if it gets to the point where I just really don't like it and I don't enjoy it anymore, then I'm looking for something else. Another way to do it. Another route, another path.
I think that is a whole nother podcast that we can do, talking about, because I think there are so many people, myself included, that have been stuck in and continue to keep themselves in a position that they absolutely hate because they think they have to. And while there are some training times in our life, and sometimes when God says, no, I want you to stay until you learn X, Y, or Z, I don't think that I don't think there's anywhere in Scripture. And please, if I'm wrong, somebody correct me, email us, put it on the Facebook group, Cheer Up Podcast community, whatever. But I don't think there's anywhere in the Bible where it says, I want you to work at a job, I want you to do your career and be miserable the entire 50 years that you're doing it. I don't think there's anywhere in the Bible that says that. But yet so many of us get stuck in a rut, and so many of us go through seasons in life where we absolutely up because we dread what the day holds. And that is not living the abundant life that God calls us to. Like you said, there are seasons where you might have to, quote unquote, suffer, but those should be seasons of growing and learning and, becoming who God wants you to be, but they shouldn't be the lifelong, day in, day out, year after year after year after year. So I think we can do a whole episode about that, because I think there's more than just us that have experienced that in life.
You know what? We need to write that down because it is so true. And the crazy thing about it is that I put myself in that situation.
I think
I have
we
said
all
such,
do for the most part.
yes, yes, I put myself in that situation. I was so bent on getting certain things done by a certain time or a certain period of my life or whatever it was, back then, that I was willing to do whatever it had to do it, even if it made me miserable. And I put
Right.
myself in that situation. And when you think back and you say, oh, I had to because of this, or if I didn't do this, then this wasn't going to get done. And as Christians, I just think that's the wrong point of view. You know,
Agreed.
all we need to do is put forth our best and trust God with the rest, you know,
Oh, I love that.
and just do that and just, and be happy and, and everything else, because being miserable, um, is, it stresses you, it's bad for your health, and it's really bad for the people around you. Depending on how you deal with stress. Yes.
Well, and it's a horrible, horrible, horrible example of being a Christ follower. And I have really been convicted of that in 2021. There were so many times that I have been stretched so thin, like I said, that my senses were all overwhelmed spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, when everything came rushing back like the Great Wolf Lodge bucket. I feel like I have been such a bad example and a bad testimony of what a Christ follower truly is. And I feel that was part of my valley in the fall, because I felt so badly for who I was being and how I was representing the God of the universe. So, I mean, honestly, if you want to look at it from a spiritual perspective, boom, there's the key. But you can look at it from so many other perspectives as well.
Oh, so many, so many. And it really ties into what our topic is going to be about today, And today we're just, for the past couple of weeks in January, first we started off with this year in our second season with the God First podcast, and then we were talking about blessings, and then, celebrating, just like different anniversaries and everything, because it was our 1 year anniversary, around that time in the last podcast and everything. And so, and in this particular topic that we're going to discuss today is going to be more about reflecting and introspections on things, on life, our own personal reflection and introspections. I want to add here that the key word there is personal. Don't reflect and introspect on someone else's life.
Good point. I didn't think about that. Good point.
We're not going to do that.
That is not a podcast we'll cover. No.
No, right? It's like, we don't need to reflect on anyone else's life path, career choices, parenting choices, marriage choices, life choices. We don't need any introspections on them or nothing like that. No. But we do need to do it for ourselves. And I love that we're doing this in January, because it's such a it's such a fresh way to start off the new year, because it is a way of looking back, like you and I were just talking about a few minutes ago. I sit here now and I think back at all the hustle and grind I did back then, and I'm like, why? And I can't even imagine putting myself through that now. I can't even imagine doing that right now. And it's because over the years, well, let's be honest, decades, since I've been in my 20s. Okay, over the decades and through my long Christian journey, meaning it's been that long, and probably wouldn't quite been as long. It took me so long to get to this point if I wasn't like, fighting God half the time, but I've just learned that as for me, my body, my mindset, my temperament, I like a more slower paced lifestyle. I flourish in a lower paced lifestyle. I am calmer in a slower paced lifestyle. I am more at peace in a lower paced lifestyle. That doesn't mean that I lack the same drive that I had back then, that I'm not a go getter, you know, and I don't put in the same 110% effort. It's just that I do it differently. I do it differently. I approach it differently. And I think that's the key with me now is that I realize that before it was all about getting it done, regardless of the consequences. Now it's like, okay, well, there's the surrounding circumstances are just as important. It's just as important. You know, what's the point in having a great career if your marriage is in a toilet, for example? You know, and so it's like one of those. It's just I've learned to just enjoy the slower paced lifestyle. I like quiet mornings. I flourish with quiet mornings. It drives my husband obsessed sometimes because he's like, it's so quiet around here, you know. So, but I found out that I flourish in those times because there's so much going on in my mind at any given moment that anything else and everything else on the outside just adds to it, you know? And it's not, it's like I'm not hearing, feeling, thinking as clearly as I like to. So that is something that I've learned over the years. And it's gotten to the point, though, that I admire, you know. And fortunately, my husband's at the point, too, where he's enjoying a more calmer, relaxed, peaceful lifestyle. And with him, it's hard because he really still, even all these decades later, has tons of drive, you know. And he's like up and going, you know, just want to be constantly going, ready, doing something, looking for a project, you know, ready to tackle something and everything else. But it's not as all out as it used to be. So we're kind of like, it's a blessing now that we're both kind of like on the same page with that. However, I admire, I see some couples, they're like, energizer couples is kind of like how I like to refer to, you know, because they're just like go, 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 go all the time. And they thrive in it, you know? They thrive in it because that's who they are. That's how they work together well that way, and nothing really suffers. You know what I mean? It's good if you're that way and you can balance everything else. It's bad to be that way and everything else is falling apart. You know, so, you know, there are people and there are couples that are very high energy. They're very out there. They like to be gone, 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 do, do, do. They're involved in this ministry and that ministry. They're doing all these different things together as a couple and or family. I should probably say energetic families, you know, or, you know, and as a family. And you know, they're just at that stage in their life. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I remember, you know, when it was, you know, I was like that. And I'm like, I'm just amazed that they're able to still keep up that type of pace. Not only that, I mentioned earlier that I didn't enjoy the pace, but these people seem to thrive in it. And I just think it's so awesome how God makes everyone so different.
Absolutely. Even in the same family sometimes.
Even in the same family, he makes everybody so different. And what kind of drained me, other people are fed off of. It nurtures them. You know what I mean? So, and it could be the opposite way. I know that there are people, probably members of my whole family, of my own family, that are like, quiet? How can you sit in the quiet for 2 to 3 hours at a time? That would drive me crazy. You know, and I'm like, I enjoy it. I flourish in the quiet. I don't know why. I don't know how, but I honestly believe it's because so much is going on in my brain at the same time that I have to sort things out.
Oh,
You
agreed.
know?
Agreed.
And it's like I have to sort it all out. And it's just like, oh, okay, that's what I was trying to do. Okay, you know, and things like that. But anyway, this is the perfect time of year to reflect and introspect on ourselves. And a couple of years ago, I kind of started doing that. I just want to also say that it doesn't have to be done at the beginning of the year. I just think and it doesn't have to be done once a year. But I just think the beginning of a year is just a great starting point if you haven't done it. And by reflection, I like to think back like on the previous year and just be aware, you know, reflect on things that went right, that went wrong, that went kind of you know, and how I could make those situations either better or not do them at all, or just do something to make it so that it didn't turn out the way it did, whether it was, if it was a bad thing, and if it was a good thing, reflect on what things led up to that made it good, and how to repeat that in this upcoming year. And I also like to reflect on the people that God brought in my life during the previous year. Were there people in 2021 that God introduced me to that I didn't know in 2020? You know, I like to reflect on that. And I like to reflect on, have they been a blessing to my life, or were they a draining to my life? Was my life better before they entered it? Or is my life worse now that they've entered it? And just reflect on those particular type of relationships. And if my life has been just blessed by having them in my life, I'm thanking God for them. And I'm just like, thank you, Father God, for putting these people in my life. They have been such a blessing to me. They're either mentoring me, been a good friend, teaching me, loving on me, supporting me, whatever the case is, or I'm just learning from them by by doing life with them. But if it's after they came into my life, and as I reflect in the new year on the past year relationship with them, and I'm like, they brought nothing but drama, division, anger, upset, stress, anything that, and by division, I mean that they come in, and then was my other friendships affected by them being in my life? Were some of my relationships affected in a negative way by them being in my life? Was I myself physically affected by them being in my life? Meaning I was sicker, I was drainer, I was emotionally drained, or something like that. And then that's a time to reflect and do some introspection onto whether to keep that person in my life for the coming year. Because sometimes we have to cut our losses. You hang on to some people too long, it becomes poisonous, toxic. Not just
Kara,
for you, but for other relationships as well.
I want to interrupt you there because I want to ask a question. Because what you're saying is so amazing. So if you truly find yourself, as you're introspecting, that you need to cut somebody out, how do you do it in a loving, Christ-honoring way?
It's easier than you think. I'm not one of those people who will just, I've been talking to you on a regular basis, and then you try to call me in the new year after I realize that you're no good for me, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, or anything like that. I'm not one who is just not going to answer the phone. I don't like doing that, and I don't even think that's biblical.
Agreed.
Let me put it this way. I don't think that's God honoring when you do people
Agreed.
like that.
Agreed.
Especially if I've been talking to you on a regular basis, and then you start calling me, and I'm like, you know what, that person had me doubting my faith last year. They were draining me spiritually. They had me engaging in conversations I didn't want to engage in. They had me questioning my faith, and then all of a sudden, I just don't pick up the phone. When that happens, and I realize, you know what, I'm making the decision to not talk with this person anymore or engage with them. So the next time they call, I like to make that clear in a loving way. There is no need to be mean. There is no need to be demeaning. There is no need to be rude. You can just peacefully just state that, you don't even have to tell them. I mean, unless you want to, and unless they press the issue, because I know some people are like, well, I don't understand. I thought we were, things were going along so well. If they press the issue, you can tell them why. And be honest. Just say, honestly, Susie Q, before you came into my life, I was happy. I had a great relationship with God. I was in a good mental space. I didn't have any financial issues. My relationship with my girlfriends were, all of my girlfriends were great. And then you came in and everything kind of went nuclear, Now I'm in like, it's like all of a sudden you got me questioning my faith. You're telling me that you have me doubting the word. I've been listening to you more than I've been listening to God. I'm having to repair friendships and relationships because of things you've said and or done. And I just don't want to do it anymore. I am so sorry. I love you. Godspeed. And, I just, we just, I love you. And may God continue to bless you. But you don't need to call anymore because after this conversation, I'm not going to be picking up the phone. So I just wanted, to let you know. And that's kind of my way of doing it. You don't have to be so cut and chase, but you do need to be direct. You do need to be direct because some people, they would just keep trying. Do you understand?
Agreed.
Misery loves company. Okay. But let me add a caveat, okay, to this. And it's a very important caveat. Before you cut anyone loose, pray about it. Okay? Because I do believe God will bring certain people in your life that you may need to be there too, to mentor and or minister to and whatnot. But then some people God didn't necessarily put in your life. They came by other means, and or you pulled them in just because you thought they were neat, you like something they said, you want to be in their company and their presence for a particular reason or whatnot, and then you find out, oh my goodness, what the heck did I just do? What did I get myself into? So always pray about it and ask for God to give you the godly wisdom of how to do it in a way you don't hurt their spirit, but you've made yourself clear. But you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to do any of that, but you do need to present the truth in love. And also it could be a wake-up call for them because you may be the only person who's telling them the truth.
And isn't that such a loving, when you look at it from a heavenly perspective or from a godly perspective, that is such a loving thing to do for somebody, because there is nothing worse and nothing that will keep you in the pig pen longer than to just have yes men surrounding you. I don't want yes men around me. I want people,
oh my heavens, say that again. Say that again. But go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want yes men around me, because as much as people who speak the truth lovingly to me might hurt my feelings, in the long run, I am so grateful to have heard the truth than to be walking around with a sign that's blaring, telling everybody the truth, and nobody's willing or loves me enough to admit that elephant in the closet or that elephant that I'm wearing or carrying.
Oh, absolutely. And, it doesn't have to be a permanent cutoff. I mean, if that person contacts you like a year or two later or something like that, you don't have to, because people can change. Okay.
True.
And you'll be able to tell within a week or two of whether or not they really changed for the better, but as your time in your life, if it becomes, especially if they have you doubting who you are as a person and what you believe in, and if you're having to repair stuff that they've broken and came in and caused all sorts of division, you can't keep feeding that person necessarily. And engaging with them, because the problems are just going to continue. And generally those people ask themselves, why don't I have friends? Right. Why don't I have friends for maybe a year or two, but then they just walk away. They don't call me anymore. They don't they don't text me anymore. I can't get in touch with them. I try to connect with them on social media. They act like I didn't, and everything else. And because sometimes people don't know. They don't know because no one has actually told them the truth, that you're annoying, that you're agitating, that you're divisive, that you can be. Yeah,
that goes back to with the Blessings Journal 2 weeks ago. I didn't know I was walking around like Eeyore. It took loving people repeatedly, because I'm a little slow on the uptake, loving people to tell me over and over and over, you're Eeyore. Whether you believe it or not, you're Eeyore. And Eeyores are draining. I mean, okay, let me pause, because there are people who legitimately are going through trying times, and I'm not saying we shouldn't come alongside them. I'm saying I had a perpetual Eeyore attitude, and it was draining. I didn't like myself, and thankfully I had people who were willing enough to put a mirror in front of me and say, Sherry, you can change this.
You know, and as Christians, that doesn't put a halo around us, so to speak, that we're not going to go through grief and trouble and or times of just deep depression. You know, it doesn't say that, you know, we're immune from that. That's the word I was looking for. It doesn't say that we're immune from that. However, the way we respond when we're in those moments in life is key.
Exactly.
It is key.
Like we were saying, it's not that the second you become Eeyore, everyone has the blessing to walk away from you and turn their back on you and say, I don't want you in my life anymore. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying your friends will come and encourage you and walk beside you. But just because you're going through depression or grief or a horrible experience in your life does not mean that you are making other people question their faith, doubt their faith, emptying their buckets every time they're with you. I mean, you can be sad and going and struggling with things and still be an encouraging, bucket-filling friend.
Absolutely. And it's like we discussed in a couple of episodes ago about how happiness is a decision, but joy comes from within.
Absolutely.
Joy comes from within.
You might have lost your joy for a season, but that doesn't mean that it won't come back.
Right. It doesn't mean that it won't come back. And you may be in a bad place in your life. And I mean, everything that can go wrong did, and everything that can continue to go wrong is going wrong still. You know, that's a part of life. That's a part of our Christian journey. However, you can't let that turn you into such a sour person to where you're that way with everybody else.
Agreed.
Everyone else, someone may come to you and say, hey, good morning, Susie Q. And you're like, what's so good about it? You know, you know, you don't need that type of attitude. Yes, you're going through something. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's hurting. Yes, you're confused and you don't know why God is allowing this to happen. But that doesn't give you the right to try to steal someone else's joy.
Agreed.
It doesn't give you the right to do that. You know, and if you get to that point, one of the best things that I've learned about myself, and this goes back to reflection and introspection, is that when I am in a sour mood and worse, a salty mood, okay, I need to be by myself. I have learned that I need to be by myself because it's when I'm real and heaven help people around me if I'm in both of them. I'm sour and I'm salty. Okay. You know, but what I do is I tend to close myself off. If I'm at home, I'll kind of close myself off in my bedroom. You know, if I'm out and about and I can't just get away from people right away, I kind of just emotionally shut down. You know, not that I'm not engaging. I'm just like taking a step back in a way. And if I have to say I'm leaving, then it's probably best that I leave because I am benefiting no one at that point.
Agreed.
Nobody.
If I'm with my
nobody.
Right. If I'm with my family and I find that I'm just in one of those moods that I need to spend the introflect with God, I will just shut my mouth. And my family will be like, what's wrong? Are you okay? Are you okay? I said, I am fine. I'm just choosing not to talk right now because nothing that comes out of my mouth will be good. Nothing.
Exactly.
There's no reflection on you. I'm not upset with anybody. I'm not angry with anybody. I'm on overload. And if I open my mouth, I'll feel sorry. So I'm just zipping it.
Or you have to apologize to everybody the next day.
Exactly. And
you're handing out apologies left and right.
Right. I have to ask for grace, and sometimes I think my grace has been used up.
Oh, absolutely, right? Because you're like, really, more? Is there more, God? Because I don't know. Because I seem to be using a whole lot of it lately. And I have found it is just best to remove myself from those situations. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the scriptures kind of refer to it as having a vexed spirit or being vexed. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I think the word vexed that it's relating to a near is more of like you're just in a stinking bad mood and there's really no reason for it that you can think of, right?
Right.
You just wake up vexed. You're in a bad mood. You don't know why. You don't know. Like you said, it's not like any particular person did anything wrong or any situation or circumstance uh, perpetuated that. It's just that you're just vexed. You know, you just have this spirit, and it's like when you get in those moods. Like I said, I was just calling it, being in a sour mood and a salty mood or something like that. It's best to just, even though your girlfriends are like, "Hey, come on," or your guy friends are like, "Hey, let's go out, let's shoot some pool," or your girlfriends are like, "Hey, let's catch a movie." But if you're in one of those moods, if you love your friends enough, you'd really stay home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you will stay home because you're like, and they're like, "Oh, this will help your mood." And they honestly, truly believe that. But in my experience, it really doesn't. That's time I need to get along with me and God and be like, "God, I don't know what's wrong, but I am just, just really in a vexed mood today, this morning. And I need to get right in my spirit."
Well, see, that all goes back to what you were saying, that when we take that time to introspect, when we take that time to reflect with God, then we can know that about ourselves. Because there are some times when it's better if we are with our friends, and there are some times when it's better when we're by ourselves. And when we take that time to reflect on that, then we know which is which. And we're not going to be perfect at it every time, but the more we spend time with God in that reflection, the more we'll tune in to who we are. And all of what you've just been talking about, Kara, leads us into what's going to be next month's topic, and that's loving extravagantly.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. All sorts of love. That's going to be, yeah. Oh, that's going to be very interesting. So you guys got to make sure you tune in for next week.
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking about the different definitions of love, because we found at least 4 of them. So there's eros, philia, storge, I think is how you say it, and agape. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, because I am very teachable. But I have loved listening to the ways that you reflect, because I have to admit that I am not as good as you when it comes to this. I've done more of the blessings journal, and I don't take the time to reflect. And I don't know if it's because I'm afraid to hear what God's going to tell me, or if it's that I just don't slow down enough to really listen to him. But I am going to make it a point this year, 2022, to slow down more and do that reflection. Like you said, I'm not out for the count because I didn't do it in January. I have plenty of time. I can start whenever I want to. And we want to encourage everybody who's listening, start when you want to. Do one thing. I'm the type of person that tries to change, or used to be the type of person that tries to change everything all at once, and then I don't do anything. And then I just end up feeling like a failure and guilty and blah, blah, blah. And that's not the way that God wants us to live. So just try one thing. Reflect on one thing.
And I just want to add really quickly, reflection in this doesn't need to be a bad thing. It could be a good thing. I just had, my husband and I had dinner at a friend's house this past weekend, and I remember just leaving there feeling so happy, joyful, blessed, and I'm like, and I like to reflect on those things, like, what was it about that dinner? It's not like we hadn't had, that luncheon. It's not like we haven't had lunch with them before. It's not like we've never been to that particular place before. It's not like, it's like, but why am I feeling so lighthearted and so blessed and so happy? And you can reflect on those good things, because then you start realizing the things you like as well as the things you don't like. Was it the conversation that I found such a blessing and a refreshing to my soul? Was it the food? But it was more than that. I just felt really light in spirit, and I just felt really in a really good place. And I like to reflect on those things too, because the good things I like to carry into the new year. Like, what was it about that situation, that particular luncheon, that particular meeting, that particular event that just has me on cloud 9 right now? Because the key is I want to duplicate it. I want to copy and paste it into the new year. So I don't want people to think that just reflection and introspection is a bad thing. It's a good thing too. You want to do away with the old things that didn't work and bring in over to the new year all the things that did work and those things that were in the middle that were just kind of reflect on how could I have handled that better. It wasn't a total disaster, but it wasn't a total success. How could I have handled that better? What can I do this year to make sure that this time it's a 10 and not a 7? So I don't want everyone to think it's a bad thing. It can really be a good thing. Even reflecting on those things that make you smile, that make you giggle, that make you happy, that lighten your spirit. All of those things are good for reflection and introspection.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us today, Kara, because I know I have learned a lot. And I think that what you just ended with, when people do that on a regular basis, I think that helps build the joy that God gives us from the inside out. And then that is a reflection. And talking about tying it all back into the beginning of this episode of this, when I was talking about how I had become a bad reflection of Jesus, when we do what you are teaching us to do, then we can change that, shift that focus, and we can become the reflection of God that we want to. It all goes back to John 16:33. That these things I have spoken to you, whether you are going through a valley right now, whether you're going through a mountaintop, in Jesus, we can have peace. In this world, we will have problems over and over again. It's just kind of that cycle. But he has overcome the world. We are so glad that you guys were with us again today. I know that I learned a lot, and I'm going to reflect on what Kara taught us, and I'm going to see what direction and what area God wants me to start with in my own life. And I'm really excited to think about starting what she has already been practicing. If you need prayer or you need encouragement, head over to the cheeruppodcast@gmail.com and ask for it. We would be more than willing, more than happy to pray with you, to offer you encouragement. If you have a question, if you have a comment, whatever it is that you want, head over there and talk to us. Or if you want to build the community at the Facebook group, head over to the Cheer Up Podcast there and start engaging in different people. Ask a question there, get a post started, and we would love to keep it going with you. At Kara's website, you can find out everything that's going on with Kara, KARARHUNT.com, or you can head over to my website, CHERISWALWELL.com. If you want me to speak at either a Zoom event or a live event, go ahead and invite me. That's over on my website as well. We are so glad that you were here, and we cannot wait for next week because we're going to be starting the new series of Love Extravagantly. It is going to be different from our series on love in last February. So we hope that you will tune in and hear the new things that we want to share from our heart to yours. So until then, enjoy your week. Let us know if you're reflecting and what God's teaching you if you want to. And have a fantastic rest of your week and rest of January. Bye-bye.